The skies of Tarellafur were once blue and calm. Birds with crystal wings flew across the gentle winds. Green trees danced in the sunlight, and rivers sang sweet songs as they flowed through the peaceful lands. The Tarellians, soft-furred and kind-hearted aliens, lived simple lives in harmony with nature. They farmed the land, raised families, and shared everything with one another. But now, the skies were red. The Graktol slavers had come. Their ships roared like dragons, black and full of weapons. They rained fire from the sky, burning the villages, taking prisoners, and leaving nothing behind but ash. The Tarellians tried to run, but they were not fighters. They had no weapons, no armies, no warships. They had never needed them. They believed in peace. Now, peace was broken. Old Elder Mora, one of the wisest Tarellians, stood at the edge of the main colony, watching the horizon burn. Behind her, hundreds of young, scared Tarellians cried and trembled. Families were broken, parents separated from children. The Graktol were monsters, tall, armored brutes with glowing red eyes and cruel voices. They took whoever they wanted and killed the rest. "Elder Mora," whispered young Pelin, a small Tarellian boy clutching his mother's fur. "Who will help us?" Mora closed her eyes. Her heart was heavy. Long ago, the Tarellians had hidden something deep underground. It was not a weapon, it was a beacon. A signal left behind by an ancient visitor who came from a distant world, a world called Earth. That visitor had warned them. "If ever you are in danger, use this. But know this. Those who answer may not be gentle. They are Deathworlders." Most of the Tarellians forgot about it. They never needed such a thing. But now, with the fires spreading and hope dying, Mora led a small group into the deep tunnels under the old temple. They brushed off dust, opened old locks, and revealed the beacon, silver and black, with strange human symbols glowing faintly. Her hand trembled as she pressed the activation pad. The beacon came alive with a hum. A pulse shot into space, a signal crying for help. It would reach Earth in 12 minutes. Far across the galaxy, in a system far beyond the peaceful stars of Tarella, humanity listened. On the command deck of the Terran fleet ship, TFS Hammerfall, Admiral Marcus Reyes stared at the blinking message on the main screen. The room fell silent. Soldiers, officers, and technicians stopped to read the message. Emergency beacon, activated, Tarella 4 species. Tarellian status, civilian population. Under attack cause, slaver assault action. Requested, rescue. Reyes leaned forward. "Is this real?" he asked. "Yes, sir," said Commander Hall. "It's an old Earth emergency beacon, one of ours. Looks like someone kept it all this time." Reyes stood up slowly. His uniform was dark gray, clean, and marked with medals. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp like steel. "Slavers," he muttered. "Graktol." Everyone in the room knew the name. The Graktol were feared across many systems. They stole, killed, and traded living beings like property. And they were protected. Some governments looked away. Some were paid to stay quiet. But humanity was not like others. Humans came from a world of fire, storms, and wild beasts. Earth was a death world, a place where only the strong survived. Long ago, when humanity joined the galaxy, the other species were afraid of them, afraid of their strength, their wild spirit, their will to fight. Now, someone had dared to hurt innocent people who carried a human beacon, and humans remembered those who called them friends. "Prepare the fleet," Reyes said. The Tarellians watched the skies as the fires crept closer. Elder Mora sat in silence, her eyes closed, holding the hands of 2 orphaned children. She had no idea if the beacon worked. Perhaps the message was lost. Perhaps no one would come. Suddenly, the sky darkened again, but not from fire. Something enormous had entered orbit. Then another, and another. Dozens of black shapes filled the upper sky, casting long shadows on the ground. Unlike the slaver ships, these vessels were clean, sharp, and silent like hunters. A voice echoed across every device, every screen, every speaker. To the slavers of Graktol, you have harmed innocents. You have broken sacred space. You have called down the wrath of Earth. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed. On the ground, the Graktol laughed. Empty threats, barked Commander Jorak, smashing his clawed fist on a console. No one dares touch us! But his smile faded as one of his lieutenants screamed. Outside, one of their ships exploded in a bright, clean flash. Then another and another. The sky turned into a nightmare. As Terran warships dropped from orbit like thunder, precision strikes hit only slaver positions. Human gunships roared over the forests, deploying black-armored soldiers with glowing blue visors. These were Terran Marines, fast, silent, deadly. The Graktol tried to fight back, but their weapons were too slow, their plans too weak. Humans moved like shadows, their bullets sharp and their orders clear. Protect the civilians, eliminate the slavers, leave no one behind. In the middle of the chaos, a small Graktol command ship tried to escape the atmosphere. It pushed upward, engines burning. On the deck of the Hammerfall, Admiral Reyes watched calmly. Target the ship, he said. A technician turned. Sir, it's already leaving the battle zone. Reyes didn't blink. They took children. Fire. A single rail cannon lit up. The fleeing ship exploded mid-air. Elder Mora looked up, tears in her eyes. Her heart trembled, not with fear but with awe. The Deathworlders had come. They were not what she expected. She imagined monsters, brutes of war and fire. But these humans were controlled. Cold, yes. Powerful, yes. But also careful, gentle, with the young, firm with the wounded. One soldier even gave his coat to a crying child. Later that night, after the fighting stopped, a group of human officers visited the main colony. Admiral Reyes stepped forward and met Elder Mora. You sent the call, he said. She nodded slowly. I did not know if it would reach you. Reyes looked around. He saw burned homes, broken walls, and tired eyes. It did, he said, and Earth answers all calls. Somewhere far away, in the shadows of the galaxy, the Graktol survivors screamed into the Galactic Council. The humans are mad. They've come to destroy us. Stop them! But the council sat silent, because deep down they knew. The fires on Torella 4 were slowly dying, but the ground was still hot. The forests were full of smoke. The sky was gray with ash. The slavers had left behind ruin, burned homes, broken roads, and frightened people. But now the Terran fleet had arrived. The humans were not diplomats. They were not soft. They did not land with gifts or songs of peace. They came in black ships, flying fast and sharp, like knives through the air. They came for war. On board the command ship TFS Hammerfall, Admiral Marcus Reyes stood on the main bridge, watching the planet below. His face was hard. His voice was calm. How many civilian areas still under slaver control? He asked. 3 zones, sir, replied Commander Hall. Eastern Ridge, River Valley, and the Deep Mine Sector. Deploy the Marines, Reyes ordered. I want boots on the ground in 5 minutes. Rescue all hostages. Kill every slaver. Yes. Sir! A loud alarm rang through the ship. Troops in black armor rushed to drop bays. Human soldiers, known as Terran Marines, checked their weapons and locked their helmets. Their armor was smooth and strong, built for war. Their faces were hidden. Their minds were focused. Down on the surface, a slaver camp sat in the middle of a dried-up riverbed. Dozens of Torellian prisoners were locked in cages. Some were crying, some were silent. A few were praying. The Graktol slavers laughed. They thought they had won. One of them, a commander named Grosh Tal, sat on a stolen Tyrellian throne and drank from a silver cup. "They'll run," he said, spitting on the ground. "The humans always talk big, but they won't fight us. No one dares touch the Graktol Syndicate." Then the sky screamed. A burning line of fire fell from above. A loud boom shook the ground. Moments later, human drop ships landed outside the camp. Before the slavers could react, the first wave of Terran Marines stormed through the gates. They didn't speak. They didn't wait. They opened fire. The fight lasted less than 3 minutes. Slavers screamed as rail rifles tore through their armor. Human drones flew overhead, targeting guards hiding behind walls. One Graktol tried to grab a Tyrellian child and use her as a shield. A Marine shot him clean through the head without blinking. The cages were opened. The prisoners were freed. And when the smoke cleared, only the humans stood. "Status?" asked a Marine officer. "All hostages safe. No human casualties. All enemy forces neutralized." "Good," the officer said. "Move to the next zone." At the same time, across the river valley, more human forces landed. A large group of Graktol had taken cover inside a stronghold. They thought it was safe, but they were wrong. The humans sent in Hellbreakers, walking tanks with massive cannons and missile pods. These machines moved slowly, but with great power. Every step shook the ground. The Graktol tried to run. They fired their weapons. But nothing could stop the machines. Inside one of the Hellbreakers, Sergeant Lin Zhou laughed. "This isn't a war," she said. "This is cleaning up trash." Her cannon fired again. Another slaver gun tower exploded. The Tyrellian civilians hiding in the caves nearby saw it all. At first, they were terrified. But when they saw the human machines only shooting at slavers, and when they saw the Marines helping the wounded, they began to understand. The Deathworlders had not come to destroy them. They had come to protect them. Back on the Hammerfall, Admiral Reyes received the reports. "All zones secure, sir," said Commander Hall. "Civilians rescued. Enemy camps wiped out. Minimal damage to surrounding areas." Reyes nodded. "Begin rebuilding efforts. Deploy engineers and medical teams. Set up food drops." "Yes, sir." A young communication officer turned toward Reyes. "Sir, there's a message from the Galactic Council." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "Play it." A cold voice filled the room. It came from a high-ranking council member, an alien named Vek Al-Drun. "Admiral Reyes, the Galactic Council has received reports of your activities. We advise caution. The use of heavy force by Deathworlders against Council protected. Species could cause political problems." Reyes didn't even blink. "Reply," he said. The communication officer nodded. Reyes stood tall and stared at the camera. "This is Admiral Marcus Reyes of the Terran Defense Command. We received a distress signal from a peaceful species under attack." We responded. "If the Council has a problem with that, they can come stop us." He ended the call. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the Council wouldn't move. They feared humans. They feared what Earth could do if pushed. On Tyrella 4, Elder. Mora stood beside her people as human workers set up supply tents and clean water stations. Children were given warm blankets. Injured Tyrellians were treated by human doctors. She looked up and saw a Marine standing nearby. His armor was dark and covered in dust. He had removed his helmet. His skin was rough. His eyes were tired. "Why? Did you come?" she asked him. The Marine looked at her for a moment. "You asked for help," he said simply. "Do you always answer calls like that?" Mora asked softly. The Marine gave a small smile. "Not always," he said. But this time, it mattered. In orbit, the Terran fleet was not done. Admiral Reyes stood before a glowing star map. Red dots showed destroyed sliver bases. Blue dots marked the safe zones. One large red marker blinked far away. "That's their main hub," Reyes said. "Graktol, home base," said Hall. "Deep in unregulated space." "If we let them live," Reyes said. they'll do this again. Somewhere else. To someone else. Hall looked at him. Orders, sir? Reyes clenched his fists. We end them. Meanwhile, in a dark part of space, a Graktol warlord named Krauk Vaughn received news of the human attacks. What do you mean they destroyed our camps? He roared. They're just Deathworlders. One tiny species. The slaver captain trembled. Sir, they've wiped out 5 bases in a single day. Our forces are scattered. Our allies have gone silent. Krauk smashed a metal table. Sent a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them the humans are out of control. But there was no reply, because the Council was afraid. They had seen the power of humans before, and now that power had been unleashed again. Later that night, the Tyrellian city center was calm. Fires were gone. Smoke was gone. The stars were bright again. Elder Mora stood beside a large stone wall. Human engineers had helped rebuild it. Children laughed nearby. People were singing again. A Tyrellian child walked up to her. Elder, the child, said, Are the humans really monsters? Mora smiled gently. No, she said. They are not monsters. They are protectors. The child looked confused. But they came with guns. Mora nodded. Yes, she said, because sometimes, to stop monsters, you need someone stronger. High above the planet, the Terran fleet was on the move. Ships reloaded, engines charged. Orders were sent. The Deathworlders had done their rescue. Now they were preparing for war. The sun slowly rose over the broken lands of Tarelov. Its golden light touched the wounded forests, the burned buildings, and the faces of survivors. But now, it also touched something new. Hope, where slaver flags once flew, now stood Terran banners, dark blue with a silver eagle in flight. Humans moved through the cities, helping the weak, feeding the hungry, and building what had been torn down. Yet Admiral Marcus Reyes knew the mission was not finished. The Graktol had taken thousands of Tyrellians across the planet. Some had already been sold. Others were still in transport. The worst were locked deep in the old mining zone, a place no rescue teams had reached yet. He stood at the center of the command tent, surrounded by screens and glowing maps. The red circle around the Zareth mine sector blinked again. Status on the prisoners? Reyes asked. Still confirmed, said Commander Hall. Multiple signals coming from underground. Life signs are weak but alive. Slavers are still there, guarding them. They're digging something too. Reyes narrowed his eyes. They're not just holding prisoners, he said. They're making them work. Far to the west, in the deep valleys of Zareth, hundreds of Tyrellians were trapped in darkness. The Graktol had turned the old mine into a prison. The tunnels were hot and narrow. There was no clean water, no sunlight, only fear. Julan, a young Tyrellian male, had been digging for hours with bloody hands. His fur was dirty, his legs shaking. But he kept digging. A Graktol guard stood behind him with an electric whip. Faster! The slaver barked. You soft things are only good for this. Julan didn't answer. He just kept digging. Around him, others worked silently. Old ones, young ones, even children. All were broken. All had lost hope. But then a rumble shook the earth. Not from mining, not from drills, something far stronger. High above the mining zone, human dropships flew low, silent as shadows. On board, teams of Terran Recon Marines prepared to drop. Sergeant Dax Keller, a large soldier with a scar over one eye, checked his gear and gave a nod to his squad. You all know the rules, he said. No chains left behind. We don't leave. One single slave down there. Got it? The Marines nodded. Graktol don't get to keep anyone. Not while we're breathing. The dropships released fast ropes. Humans descended like hawks into the jungle surrounding the mine. They moved without sound. Every step was planned. Every shot would be perfect. Soon, the first guard post was spotted. A Graktol sniper sat in a tower, yawning. He never saw the silenced bullet that ended him. Inside the mine, alarms began to ring. "Humans incoming!" a slaver shouted. "Defensive positions!" Grak'tol soldiers scrambled. Some ran to the tunnels. Others tried to block the gates, but the Terran Marines were already there. A group of human soldiers blasted through the outer fence. They moved quickly, clearing each hallway with precision. Flashbangs exploded. Slavers screamed. Sergeant Keller kicked open a door and found 10 Torellians huddled together, chained to the wall. One of them cried out, "Please don't hurt us!" Keller raised a hand. "We're not here to hurt you," he said, pulling out a small cutting tool. "We're here to get you out." Chains hit the floor. The Torellians stared at him in disbelief. A child touched his armored glove. "Are you real?" she whispered. Keller nodded. "Yeah, we're real. And you're going home." Elsewhere in the mine, Julan had dropped his shovel. The lights above flickered. Loud bangs echoed from above. Suddenly, the wall beside him exploded. Through the dust walked 2 Terran Marines, rifles up, armor glowing blue in the low light. One of them shouted, "Hands up if you're a prisoner!" Julan raised both hands, eyes wide. "Good," the Marine said. "Follow us. Stay behind." Julan couldn't believe it. The humans were here, just like the stories. He followed them without question. At the surface, the Grak'tol made one last stand. They brought out heavy guns and screamed into their radios for backup. No one answered. They were alone. A Terran gunship hovered above and fired 2 missiles. The slaver defenses exploded in flame and metal. In less than 20 minutes, the entire mining zone was cleared. All slavers were either dead or captured. All prisoners were free. Admiral Reyes watched the live feed from orbit. He saw the rescued Torellians climbing out of the mine, blinking in the sunlight. He saw children carried in the arms of Marines. He saw old ones sitting under shade tents, sipping clean water. He smiled slightly. "Tell them," he said. "Tell the people of Torella, they are safe now." That night, a celebration took place in the capital city. It was not loud or fancy, but it was full of joy. Human engineers helped set up lights. Torellian musicians played soft songs. Families reunited. Tears were shared. Even Admiral Reyes came down to walk among them. Many Torellians bowed their heads as he passed. Not in fear, in respect. Elder Mora met him at the edge of the garden. "You didn't just rescue us," she said. "You saved who?" "We are." Reyes looked around. "I just did what anyone should do." Mora shook her head. "No," she said. "Others heard us cry for help, but only humans came." On a nearby hill, Sergeant Keller sat with Julan, watching the stars. "You fought today," Keller said. "You kept going, even when you were broken. That's real strength." Julan looked at him. "I thought humans were scary. That's what we were told, that you were violent." Keller chuckled. "We are," he said, "but only when someone hurts the innocent." Julan was quiet for a moment. "Then I'm glad the stars sent you to us." Keller patted his back. "They didn't send us. You called, and we came." But, far away, in the dark halls of the Grak'tol fortress, Warlord Krauk Von stared at the reports. Another base lost, more slaves freed, his army shrinking, his pride burned. "They think they can destroy us?" he growled. "They think they can stop what we built?" He slammed his fist on the table. "Send a message to every ship, every captain. We strike back. No more hiding. No more waiting." His eyes glowed with hatred. "We show the Deathworlders what real fear is." Back on Torella 4, Reyes received a report from Earth. The message was short. Council chatter increasing. Grak'tol massing ships. Possible retaliation. He closed the file and turned to Hall. "Prepare the fleet. Double the patrols. Move civilians to safe zones." Hall nodded. "Do you think they'll come here again?" Reyes looked at the stars. "If they do," he said, "we'll be ready." He turned back toward the window and whispered to himself, "No chains, no slaves, not while humanity stands." The stars above Tarelafor were peaceful once more. The fires were gone. The screams were over. The people were rebuilding. But Admiral Marcus Reyes knew the real storm had not yet arrived. The Graktol had been quiet for too long. That silence was dangerous. Inside the command center of the TFS Hammerfall, Commander Hall stood beside Reyes, eyes on a glowing screen. Red dots blinked in space, many more than before. "They're moving," Hall said softly. "How many ships?" Reyes asked. "Too many for defense," Hall replied. "They're gathering near the Drax Nebula. It looks like a full fleet." Reyes nodded. "So the cowards finally found their courage." He turned to the rest of the command team. "Send word to Earth. Activate full battle protocol. Tell them we're taking the fight to the enemy." A pause. Then he added, "And tell the fleet we're going hunting." Far across the stars, deep in slaver-controlled space, the Graktol warlord Kralk Von stood before his generals. Behind him, giant monitors showed video clips of Terran ships burning slaver outposts. The generals were nervous. Kralk was furious. "They humiliate us," he shouted. "They kill our warriors. They destroy our bases like we are nothing." One of the commanders, Vorg, spoke carefully. "They are strong, warlord. The humans, they fight like nothing we've seen." Kralk grabbed Vorg by the throat and slammed him to the floor. "We are the Graktol!" Kralk roared. "We were feared before humans ever left their planet." He released Vorg and stepped onto a platform. "Now we show them. We gather every ship, every soldier. We crush them not just in battle, we make them beg. And when Earth is ash, the galaxy will remember who rules." His generals roared in agreement. War was coming. Back on Tarelafor, the news spread quickly. The Graktol fleet was on the move. Civilians were evacuated. Human engineers built bunkers. Terran soldiers prepared for defense. But Admiral Reyes had no plan to sit and wait. He called together his captains, pilots, and strike leaders. He stood at the front of the war table, a large hologram of space spinning slowly above it. "They're expecting us to defend," Reyes said. "They want us to hide behind shields, wait for them to arrive." He looked each officer in the eye. "But we're Deathworlders. We don't wait for the enemy to come to us. We take the war to them." There were nods across the room. Reyes continued, "We strike first, hard and fast. We hit their main fleet before it leaves their space. We show them what fury really means." The Terran Third Fleet launched at full burn. Massive warships cut across the stars like arrows. Carriers released swarms of drones. Stealth cruisers vanished into the void. Heavy destroyers rumbled with silent energy, waiting to unleash power. The humans were coming, and they were angry. Meanwhile, the Graktol fleet floated near a dead planet called Dravak 6, waiting for the final signal to strike Earth. Their ships were ugly and powerful, covered in spikes, thick armor, and stolen tech from dozens of species. Warlord Kralk stood aboard his flagship, the Fangs of Glory, feeling confident. Until alarms began to ring. "Multiple warp signatures," shouted a slaver officer. "Ships incoming at high velocity!" Kralk turned to the window. At first he saw nothing, then light. Bright blue lines tore through space as Terran rail cannons opened fire. Graktol ships exploded one after another. The humans had arrived. In the heart of the battle, Captain Lena Ford led her cruiser, the TFS Vengeance, through the chaos. "Target those missile boats," she ordered. "Keep moving. Don't let them lock on." Her ship weaved through debris, releasing fighters and drone clouds. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were focused. In the distance, she saw 3 slaver ships trying to retreat. "Not today," she said. The Vengeance fired. 3 clean shots. 3 more enemy ships vanished in flames. At the same time, Terran boarding teams dropped into the heart of the enemy formation. Their target, Krauk's flagship. A squad of Marines landed on the hull using magnet boots. Explosions rocked the outer decks. They cut through metal doors and stormed the hallways, plasma rifles glowing. Inside the command chamber, Krauk watched the security screens. He couldn't believe it. "They're inside my ship!" "Yes, Warlord!" shouted a panicked guard. "They're already at the power core!" Krauk grabbed a giant axe and growled. "Then we fight them ourselves!" Deep in the engine section, Sergeant Dax Keller led his squad through heavy resistance. Grenades flashed, slaver guards fired blindly, but the humans moved fast and struck hard. "Push forward!" Keller shouted. "We're ending this now!" They reached the core chamber and planted explosive charges. Then, Krauk arrived. The huge warlord roared and swung his axe, cutting through metal. Keller dodged, raised his rifle, and fired. The shot hit Krauk in the shoulder. The warlord stumbled but kept fighting. It took 5 Marines and 20 bullets to bring him down. Krauk dropped to his knees, coughing blood. "You think this is victory?" he growled. Keller stepped forward. "No," he said. "This is justice." The charges exploded. The fangs of glory split in half. Above the battlefield, Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Hammerfall, watching the enemy fleet fall apart. One by one, Graktal ships surrendered or burned. The battle was almost over, but Reyes gave one final order. "Send this message to all channels, galactic-wide." Soon, across every known system, a voice echoed, "To the galaxy, you saw what the slavers did. You looked away. But we did not. We are humanity. We came from a death world, yes. But we fight for the weak. We fight for the voiceless. And if you take them, we will find you. We will end you. This is your warning." The last Graktal ship exploded behind him, lighting up the dark space like a second sun. Reyes turned from the window. "Let's go home," he said. Back on Tarella 4, the stars were peaceful again. The people looked up and saw no more fire, only light. In the city center, a new statue was being built. A human soldier standing tall, holding a Tarellian child in one hand and a shield in the other. The plaque read, "To those who heard our cry, to those who came with fury, to the Deathworlders, our protectors." In a small classroom, a Tarellian teacher spoke to young students. "Children," she said, "what do you call someone who saves others, even when it's dangerous?" A young girl raised her hand. "A hero?" The teacher smiled. "Yes. And what do we call the heroes who came from Earth?" The class answered together. "Deathworlders." But far away, in the deepest corners of the galaxy, some watched with fear, others with wonder. No one would forget what humanity had done. And everyone knew one thing now: if you hurt the helpless, Deathworlders will come. Peace had returned to Tarelif. The skies were clear again. The rivers flowed without ash. The forests slowly healed. The people smiled once more. For the first time in many years, the children played without fear, and the elderly sat in the sun without worry. But the galaxy was silent, because they had all seen what happened. They had seen the Deathworlders, humans, answer a cry for help, not with soft words or treaties, but with fire and fury. And now the galaxy waited to see if humans would stop. Waited to see what humanity wanted next. Waited and held its breath. Inside the orbiting command ship, TFS Hammerfall, Admiral Marcus Reyes stood quietly, hands behind his back, watching the calm blue planet below. His uniform was dusty, but his eyes were sharp. Commander Hall walked beside him with a report. "All surviving civilians have been moved to safe zones. Reconstruction is ahead of schedule. No more slaver signals in this sector." Reyes gave a small nod. "Good." Hall hesitated. "There's more, sir. The Galactic Council has called an emergency meeting. They've invited you to speak." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "Now they care?" "They say the galaxy wants answers." Reyes chuckled. Then they'll get the truth. A week later, on a giant space station called Unity Prime, leaders from over 300 alien species gathered inside the Grand Council chamber. The room was vast, shaped like a dome, with stars visible through the transparent ceiling. Aliens of all sizes, colors, and shapes filled the rows. Some whispered, some looked nervous, others looked angry. At the center, Admiral Marcus Reyes stood, alone. No guards, no weapons, just his voice. He looked around, then spoke calmly. "You all saw what we did," he began. "You saw humans destroy slaver ships. You saw us wipe out the Graktol fleet. You saw the fire." No one interrupted. "You ask why we acted," Reyes continued. "You ask why we didn't wait, why we didn't hold meetings, why we didn't send reports." He paused. "Because while you sat here talking," the innocent were screaming. A hush fell over the chamber. Reyes stepped closer. "We didn't come to conquer. We came because a signal reached us. A beacon. An old promise made by a human long ago. Someone asked for help, and we answered. A large insectoid ambassador clicked its mandibles. But your force was terrifying. You destroyed an entire fleet." Reyes turned to him. "Would you have preferred we asked the slavers nicely, offered tea, while they beat children and sold mothers?" Silence. A soft voice spoke from the back. It was Elder Mora, now wearing formal robes. She had come as a guest. She stepped forward slowly. "I speak for the Torellian people," she said. "We are alive today because of humanity. Not because of this council, not because of any rules, but because the humans chose to act." She looked at Reyes. "They are not monsters. They are protectors." That speech spread across every system on Ne. Hundreds of worlds, people watched it. Some were shocked. Some were moved, but many were afraid, because now they understood something important. Humans would not stay silent anymore. On Earth, news channels replayed the story of Torella again and again. People cheered, some cried. Across the planet, statues were built. Soldiers were honored. Rescue ships were launched to other worlds in need, and a new message appeared on Terran military posters everywhere. "If you hurt the helpless, we will find you." Back on Torella Full, life bloomed again. Human engineers stayed behind to help rebuild. They taught the Torellians how to defend themselves, how to use technology, and how to prepare for the future. But not just humans helped. Other species, inspired by the Terran actions, began sending aid too. Medicine, food, clean water. The slavers were gone. The world was healing. One day, as Admiral Reyes walked through the growing city center, a Torellian child ran up to him holding a drawing. It showed a human soldier with glowing blue eyes holding a Torellian in one arm and a shield in the other. "This is you," the child said with a smile. Reyes knelt down and looked at it. "It's perfect," he said. The child asked, "Will you stay forever?" Reyes smiled. "No, we go where we're needed most. But we'll always watch the stars." The child pointed up. "I'll wave if I see your ships again." He chuckled. "Then I'll wave back." Elsewhere in the galaxy, slaver groups fled. Some changed names, some tried to hide. But it didn't matter, because human patrol fleets were now active across the outer systems. They searched, they watched, and when they found slaver activity, they ended it quickly. The galaxy soon learned there were no more safe places for evil. Inside a quiet bar on a space station, two alien merchants whispered over drinks. "I heard the humans destroyed an entire station because it was trading slaves. They didn't even ask questions?" "They didn't need to." One leaned closer. "Do you think they'll come after us?" The other gulped. "Not if we stay clean." A silence followed. Then one of them said softly, "Maybe it's better this way." On Earth, the president of the Terran Union made a speech. "We are no longer the forgotten species," she said. "We will no longer wait for others to lead. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We are humans, and we remember every scream that went unheard. We remember every hand that reached for help and found none. She looked into the camera. If you are in danger, call us. If you are in chains, call us. If you are being hunted, call us. We will come. The world cheered, and the galaxy listened. Back on Torella Fu, the statue of the human soldier was finally finished. Around it stood Torellians, humans, and other alien species, all working together now. The new city had a name: New Unity. At the statue's base were 4 simple words. They heard our cry. Admiral Reyes stood at the edge of a hill overlooking the city. Commander Hall stood beside him. Hall said, "We've done a lot here." Reyes nodded. "And there's more to do." Hall looked at him. "What happens now?" Reyes took a deep breath and stared at the stars. "We keep listening." Hall tilted his head. "To what?" Reyes smiled. "To the next call." In a dark corner of space, a small planet flickered with distress signals. A forgotten colony. Under threat. No one answered. Not yet. But far away, on a Terran ship, an alarm began to blink. The crew looked at the message. A voice read the report. "Emergency beacon activated. Civilians in danger." The captain looked around. "You all know what that means." A chorus of voices answered, "Prep the fleet." And once again, the Deathworlders moved.